"Come, it's time to get dressed," said Giddle. Dressed, Hannah looked down at the flowered smock she had on, the same awful thing she'd been wearing the night before. Anything would have been better. It looked like one of her grandmother's house dresses, shapeless with faded roses. Following Giddle into the bedroom, she paused only for a moment, wondering without much hope if the door would transport her back to the Bronx. But when she passed through the small, dark bedroom, was still solidly itself. What was dream and what was real was getting harder and harder to distinguish. What should I wear, Giddle? The woman's name came now easily to her tongue. Hannah wasn't even sure where the closet was that held her clothes. Her real clothes. The bedroom she and Giddle had shared only had one door, which led back to the main living dining room. There were 2 small beds in it with wooden chests at the foot of each, and a large standing wardrobe. Between the 2 beds was a washstand with a stoneware pitcher and bowl. She had already discovered, to her horror, that the bathroom was a privy outside the house, and it had no light for night visits. "You will wear the dress I wore as a child for Shmuel's bar mitzvah." He was so handsome and so nervous. "Just like today. It's too bad that your wonderful clothes from Lublin had to be burned along with your bedding, but the doctor said they carried the disease. As you arrived just 2 days ago, there is no time to make you anything else. But do not worry, Haya. I will make you new clothes before winter comes." While Hannah stood in the center of the room, wondering which chest she would try first, Giddle went to the standing wardrobe, opened it, and pulled out a dark blue sailor suit dress with white piping at the sleeves and neck and a blue sash belt. It was the ugliest thing Hannah had ever seen, and babyish. "Lovely," Giddle said. "Nicer than anything any of the girls in our shtetl or Vegas have. All the girls will be jealous." Jealous? Of what? Hannah was momentarily speechless and muttered under her breath, "It's a rag, a schmutt." Giddle made a sound of disgust. "In Lublin it might have been a schmutt, but here it is fit for a princess. Even Firewell in her wedding dress will not be as beautiful. Now, young lady, no more nonsense. Perhaps we have been baby you too long. Miss, I know what a wedding night is." Hannah's face must have shown its instant apology through burning cheeks, for Giddle came over immediately and put her arm around Hannah. There, child, forgive me. I am crazy with all this wedding business, and my tongue is sometimes quicker than my heart. Put on the dress. Perhaps it is, after all, a little out of fashion. But then so are we here in our shtetl, and you are not in Lublin now." She paused for a moment as if waiting for Hannah's reply. When there were none, she went on as before. "Try on the stockings and shoes. I only use them for shul and for photographer. Then I grew, in 1 year, too big for them. They still have plenty of wear left, and I think they will fit you nicely. I was just your size at 15. At 16, I was a giant. Then I will do your hair for you, and everything will look fine. You will see." Hannah pulled the dress on. It fit her perfectly in the bodice and the sleeves, but came down way over her knees. Giddle didn't seem to have anything wrong with that. The stockings were a heavy, skin-colored cotton that came halfway up her thighs. The shoes shiny black Mary Janes. Shaking her Hannah put them on as well. If she pretended she was going to a Halloween party, the outfit would be bearable. Giddle braided her hair into 2 plaits, and then held up a pair of blue velvet ribbons. "These I was saving for my own wedding night, about which you know so much." This time her voice held a hint of laughter. "But who would marry that monster Yishak, who leaves his precious children outside like yard goods? Besides, the ribbon will look beautiful in your brown hair." She tied them around the end of the plaits and then pinned the tapes to the plates on top of Hannah's head like a crown. "There, look." She pushed Hannah towards the mirror that hung on the wall. Hannah looked. Gone were her braces. Gone was the light coral lipstick her mother had allowed her to wear to the Seder. The girl who stared back at her had the same heart-shaped face, the same slightly crooked smile, the same brown hair, the same gray eyes as Hannah Stern of New Rochelle, New York, and America. But there was something old-fashioned and unfamiliar about this Chaya Abramovitz, something haunting, like one of the old photographs on Grandma Belle's grand piano, photographs of Grandma's family, but none of Grandpa Will's, because Aunt Ava had once explained no photographs had been saved in the death camps. We were our own photos. Those pictures engraved only in our memories. When we are gone, they are gone. Hannah smiled awkwardly at her reflection and turned away. By noon, half of the shtetl was gathered outside the door, laughing and trading stories so loudly the chickens hid in the barn, refusing to come out even when 3 little boys in short pants and yarmulkes tried to coax them with corn. Hannah felt a lot like the chickens, nervous about all the loud, strange men and the laughing, chattering women. She, too, would have hidden in the barn if she could. Sensing Hannah's timidity, Giddle kept her close, and she greeted everyone by name, thanking them for the gifts as if she were the bride herself. Looking surprisingly beautiful in a dark green dress with a broad white lace collar, Gito made sure all of her tributes were piled into 2 wagons: crocks of butter, links of cloth, a white lace tablecloth, wooden bowls, and a pair of truly ugly silver candlesticks that Shmuel announced had been sent over by the Reindar himself. Even the cages of the chickens went into the wagons, one in each. Gidel kept rearranging the gifts, making them seem to be twice as numerous, saying again, "Lo Schnorrs and Viast will know we honor our oath." Near the barn, Shmuel and one of the other men stood smoking and laughing at one joke after another. When Gidel disappeared inside for a moment, Hannah thought she'd stand next to Shmuel, since she really knew no one else. But as she got closer, Yitzchak shooed her away as if she were one of the chickens, waving his massive hands at her and saying, "Men talk is not for young ladies." Embarrassed at being singled out that way, Hannah spun around right into the arms of a girl her own age, who looked at her with great, startled green eyes. Hannah was so relieved to see another girl, she almost cried out. "So, you are Lublin Kaya," the girl said, her voice catching strangely in mid-sentence. Before Hannah could deny it, the girl threaded her arms through Hannah's, calling out to the knot of girls who were standing by a newly arrived wagon. "I have found her, Lublin Kaya." They came over at a run, hair ribbons flying. "You see, we have all been waiting to meet you," the startled girl explained, the breathiness in her voice more pronounced. "Ever since we heard you were coming. Imagine someone from Lublin living in our shtel. But Tante Gittel is so fierce. Do you know that my father calls her Gittel the bear?" "My father, too," one of the other girls said. "She said we could not meet you until you had rested because you had been so seriously ill. Almost died," she said. The startled girl pulled each statement out as if it were a rare gift to be examined, breathing deeply after every sentence. 10 weeks in the hospital, no one here knowing, but she promised we would meet you at the wedding, and here you are." Hannah pulled a smile across her face in greeting. At least the dream, or whatever it was, would be more interesting with the girls her own age in it. "Now let me introduce you," the breathless girl said. "This is Esther and Yenta, but we call her Cossack." They each bobbed a head in turn. "And I," she drew in a deep, heavy breath, "I am Rachel. I'm going to be your best friend." "I already have a best friend," Hannah said, "at home. Her name is Rosemary." "Hannah, what kind of a name is Rosemary?" asked one of the girls. Hannah thought it must have been Shifra. "It is a Goyish name," Rachel said at once. "Do you mean to say your best friend is not a Jew?" "As a matter of fact, she's Catholic," Hannah said. "As if that matters." "As if that matters!" The girls were clearly shocked, and Esther added, "My father will not even let me talk to a Goy." Esther, your father will not let you talk to someone from Vyas," said Rachel. "Well, I'm going to talk to someone from Vyas today," Esther answered. "I'm to talk to Lublin Kaya." Hannah turned to Rachel, shaking her head slowly. "You can be my second best friend, Rachel. My first best friend here. It seemed somehow important to keep the 2 worlds separate. She was sure Rosemary would understand. The girls all smiled at her, waiting for something else, and Hannah could not figure out what. Trying to memorize their faces to distinguish them, she saw that Shifra had a pale, freckled face and eyelashes so lightly they could not be seen. Made her eyes look shifty. Shifty. She could remember that. And Esther was a plump with rosy cheeks and mouth that seemed to rest and pout. She was round like an Easter egg. Esther Easter. The third girl, the Cossack Yenta, had a ferrety face, sharpened chin and nose, and a yellowish complexion. Yenta yellow. It was a special way of remembering Aunt Eva had taught her, and it worked so well. She got A's in school using it, and Rachel was just Rachel, her second best friend, first year in the shtel, in the dream. "So," Rachel said, interrupting thoughts, "tell us about Lublin." Hannah realized it was useless telling them she lived in New Rochelle, as she had been trying to convince Gidel and Shmuel. The truth was, she was beginning to wonder herself whether she was Hannah and Kaya was the dream, or she was Kaya and Hannah was some kind of mishigas, some craziness in her mind from the sickness. Yet there were all those memories of house and school and Seder, of mother and father, and Aaron and Ava and Aunt Ava and the rest. She couldn't have made them up unless she was a genius, or crazy, or both. She had no choice. In Lublin, she began thinking of New Rochelle. I lived in a house that had 8 rooms, and the toilets are inside the house. One upstairs and one downstairs. In the house? Rachel let it out in a single breath. "Imagine," said Yenta. "Your parents must have been fabulously wealthy, richer than Yitzchak the butcher, as rich almost as the renter himself." "The renter's house has 12 rooms," Rachel corrected. 13, Yenta corrected. "My mother's sister is his housekeeper." Her sharp nose twitched as she talked. Your mother's sisters cannot count, said Rachel. She thinks there are 13 eggs in a dozen. She thinks there are 9 days of Hanukkah, added Shifra. She thinks there are 5 fingers on a hand,